Hello, my darling listeners. This is Fax 5. I'm here with something, I'd say, a bit lighter after last week's art piece. Sometimes I call it a monstrosity. Other times I call it art. It really is a thing of beauty. Today I'm reading a New York Times piece. Specifically one about the We Build the Wall fiasco. And honestly, I will never get over that entire fiasco. Such a amazingly horrendous scam. And of course it was done in the name of Donald Trump. Donald Trump Jr. was either Junior or Eric or one of the little Trumps, even supported it. And of course, Trump only pardoned Steve Bannon of the We Build the Wall thing, leaving the other people to rot. I honestly don't understand why people say that Trump has their best interests at heart. I mean, come on. The dude threw his own lawyer under the bus. Say whatever you want about Giuliani. I'll give him credit for at least one thing. He really went all out for his boss. He humiliated himself again and again on national stage and just kept going for the sake of his boss. And what does Trump do? He throws him under the bus, refuses to pay his legal fees, won't even call him back. If he threw his own lawyer under the bus, he will throw you under the bus. Quit telling yourself it's any different. After pardon for Bannon to admit to bilking donors to border wall, prosecutors say they took money from donors to Donald J. Trump's signature project and spent it on jewelry, plastic surgery, and a golf cart. By Benjamin Weiser, published in the New York Times on April 21st, 2022. In Donald J. Trump's final hours as president in January 2021, he pardoned his one-time chief strategist, Stephen K. Bannon, who faced charges that he had conspired to swindle donors to a private group that promised to build a wall along the Mexican border. But 3 men charged with Mr. Bannon were not pardoned, and 2 of them are expected to plead guilty to Thursday in Federal District Court of Manhattan court filing show. One is Brian Kolfage, a 40-year-old Air Force vet from Miramar Beach, Florida, who lost both legs and an arm during his service in Iraq, and who founded the fundraising campaign for the private We Build the Wall project, intended to further one of Mr. Trump's signature political initiatives. Building a wall along the country's southwestern border to repel migrants became a rallying cry for Mr. Trump throughout his presidency, and the charges against Mr. Bannon and his co-defendants suggested they had exploited the issue's popularity among Trump supporters to dupe donors to their project for private gain. The defendants defrauded hundreds of thousands of donors, capitalizing on their interest in funding a border wall to raise millions of dollars under the false pretense that all of that money would be spent on construction, said Audrey Strauss, then the U.S. Attorney in Manhattan when the charges were announced in August 2020. The other defendant expected to plead guilty on Thursday is Andrew Badolato, 57, a venture capitalist from Sarasota, Florida, the court filing show. The fourth, Timothy Shea, 51, of Castle Rock, Colorado, had reached a tentative deal to plead guilty, but changed his mind, prosecutors said in a recent court filing. Mr. Shea is scheduled for trial on May 16th. The We Build the Wall case has been widely watched, initially because of Mr. Bannon's connection, and then, after his pardon, because the 3 less well-connected defendants were left facing prosecution. Mr. Bannon, 68, could still end up playing a part in the case if Mr. Shea goes to trial next month. For example, Mr. Shea's lawyer, John C. Marangolo, has said in court papers that the defense plans to call Mr. Bannon as a witness. We don't believe the government can prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt against Tim Shea, Mr. Marangolo said by phone this week. When the charges were announced, prosecutors said that in order to induce donors to contribute, Mr. Bannon and Mr. Kolfage repeatedly and falsely assured the public that Mr. Kolfage would not take a penny in salary or compensation, and that all the money raised would be used in the execution of our mission and purpose. According to the indictment, the fundraising campaign raised more than $25 million for the project, but prosecutors said Mr. Bannon and his co-defendants misrepresented the true use of the donated funds. The indictment accused Mr. Bannon of siphoning more than $1 million from the project through a nonprofit organization he controlled, and using the money, among other things, to pay Mr. Colfage and to cover hundreds of thousands of dollars in Mr. Bannon's personal expenses. The indictment said Mr. Colfage took more than $350,000 in donated funds and used that money to pay for home renovations, a luxury SUV, boat payments, a golf cart, cosmetic surgery, and jewelry. Mr. Colfage will plead guilty to one count of conspiracy to commit wire fraud, prosecutors said in their court filing. He will also plead guilty to federal tax-related charges that were filed against him in Florida and later moved to New York. Mr. Bannon remained under a separate investigation by Manhattan District Attorney's Office for his role in the project, according to 2021 news reports. Mr. Trump's pardon of Mr. Bannon appealed only to federal crimes, not to state offenses. A spokeswoman for the Manhattan District Attorney, Alvin Bragg, declined to comment. John E. Bromwich contributed reporting. LBJ once said that, "If you convince the lowest white man that he's better than the best black man, he won't notice when you pick his pocket. Hell, give him someone to look down on, and he'll empty his pockets for you." I'm paraphrasing a bit, of course, but it went something like that. And honestly, this entire kerfuffle, this whole we build the wall kerfuffle, I really think it speaks for itself. Of course, I'm not here to give an account of the past, but it's very clear that they were able to just bilk so much money, and one of the people being Steve Bannon, someone who prides himself as a populist. I don't know what kind of populist prides himself on stealing from the people he claims to want to improve the lot of, and not even improve their lot. Like, I get it, the old school populists, they would engage in old school corruption, but they also made sure that common people got a stake in that pot, in that corruption. I think like Huey Long, he would joke about stealing directly from you, the people, and joking about being honest about it, or stuff like that. Similarly, there was this idea that, maybe the old Tammany Hall bosses are corrupt, but we vote for them and we can go to them if we have our problems. But what the hell was Bannon offering when he was just siphoning so much money away from people who would normally support him? This reminds me of the second article I read, that essay by, what was his name? By Pearlstein, Rick Pearlstein. I should redo that one. I've gotten better at recording and audio editing and whatnot. I think that one deserves a redo. Yeah, I've gotten better at audio editing. I think I can redo that one. Maybe redo some of my older ones as well. Make them a bit easier to listen to. Add some better commentary. Hello, this is Fax 5'em, saying thank you for listening, and I sincerely hope that you enjoyed it. If you can, please like and share it around, and if you're feeling especially generous, please subscribe. I need at least 100 subscribers to change my YouTube channel's URL, and my default is long and ugly, and I really don't like it. It would be extremely helpful for me if you subscribed. But you don't have to. I'm not your boss. I'm just Fax 5'em. And right now, I'm signing off.